The
Yeah.
beautiful. Hello there. This is RJ and Sabine, relationship coaches, answering listeners' questions, one question at a time. Okay, so today we are tackling a common question that we hear from our clients over and over again. Namely, how do I make my relationship normal again? So, what is this question suggesting? Is it that a couple's relationship has gone off the rails somehow? And be, before we can answer this question, we really need to find out a little bit more about the context. So, for example, the time frame. Since when has this happened? How long has this been going on for? How does it feel at the moment? Does it feel awkward? Are you speaking to one another? Are you spending any time together? Is there any tension in the air? Or are you just avoiding sharing the same space? You're reading in the lounge room and the other person comes in and you close your book and you walk out. So is what's happening, or is it a little bit less dramatic? Like, what was the issue that has led to the point of breakdown? This is another question we would need to ask. So, was it a specific event? Was it an accusation that was made? Like, was there some blaming? Or like, was it a sudden and unexpected event that caused awkwardness? Like at a party, something was said that was maybe misunderstood. Or was the relationship simply deteriorating over time? I mean, these are all important questions. And the thing is, like, these are just examples from what our clients are telling us. Hopefully, soon we might have someone to come on the show live and work with us, and we can sort of give a little bit more of a contextual picture of how we would deal with relationship problems. But whilst we don't have anyone here who is coming on live, we just have to go from our experience. And so we're just pulling things together where we give you an idea what to look for. Now, when anyone says, how can I make my relationship normal again? There is this word normal, and we need to find out what that really means for that couple. Okay. These are all important things to know before we understand the context. And so there are certain things that come up in a relationship that make us question whether we actually really know the person that we are with. For example, you could have spent a number of years together and everything was fine. And then there might be like minor surprises, right? Things that are not such a big deal. Like, for example, you might get an overseas visitor. And then you realize that the atmosphere in the house has somehow changed. And you go, oh, I didn't think that you and my aunt wouldn't get along. Like you are so much alike, right? So this is just a minor surprise and something new that you learn about your partner. Now, that doesn't mean the relationship is going off the rails. It is just something that you haven't noticed before. And so that is fine. But what about like a major surprise when you discover something about your partner that makes you question if you can really enjoy living together. And there are also, things that matter a lot and things that may not matter so much. For example, notice the emphasis on the word enjoy. So, what we mean is that they are not like major secrets that are all of a sudden coming out. For example, you might discover something about your partner's history that makes you feel uncomfortable. So maybe your partner in the past, many, many years ago, they were involved in some social, political movement that you don't agree with, or maybe, they spent time in jail and you didn't know that, but they have since changed. They're a completely different person. I mean, this is all information. If that comes out, there is usually an issue of trust. And you can appreciate that it might sort of cause a little bit of friction because you haven't been told about this before. But what I'm mainly talking about here are sort of everyday problems that can creep up in a relationship. And whilst there may be major surprises, they are not of that serious nature, if you like. They have more to do with like incongruent values. So, for example, you and your partner have been living together for a number of years, and you might even have children together, and then all of a sudden you come to realize that you and your partner actually have very different values on life. Like you both have very different outlooks of how you want to live your life. And so, one person, for example, might value and appreciate building a really good nest egg. And they want to work very hard, and they want to buy property, they might want to invest money for retirement. They budget very carefully and like they live life according to a plan. And maybe you didn't realize that before because you were caught up in being happy in a new relationship, and then you became, parents and you were busy with children. But it's only now that you notice that. And so while one person might appreciate, more material things, the other person in the relationship might value and appreciate a home life, like being happy and satisfied with, having family around, family dinner, like having the children around, helping them with their homework, motivating the children and with their achievements and sporting activities, whatever it is. And they might just be, more homebodies and happy with that. And so now it really depends on, can those two people find a compromise and still have a normal relationship? Or does that different outlook make people unhappy to coordinate their life together? So these are questions we need to all ask and find out the reasons why, number one, the person who is asking the question, how do I make my relationship normal again? We have to really understand what their normal means. What is normal for them? And when we find out what their definition of normal is, we might actually discover that it is an illusion. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Because once you realize you've been living an illusion, you are free to let that illusion go and replace it with something that is far more meaningful. So, in other words, you then would be looking for a new normal. And that could mean that you simply acknowledge the differences in values, you respect one another, and this can just be enough to still have a happy life together. Or if things have already deteriorated to the point where you're not communicating all that well, you might actually go through an exercise where you list all the things that you actually like about the other person. Because if you are with a person who is stable, who is working, who is, um, looking after their health, you're not living with a person who is plagued with an addiction, maybe, that is a completely different problem. Um, you just have to weigh up, what you're dealing with. But if there's, if you're living with a person who is functional and nice and reasonable, it's just that you have different ideas about life and how to live it, you could sit down and do an exercise and write down, what do I actually like about this person? Like, can he or she make me laugh or smile? Okay, you could even write down little things, silly things, right? Like, I like how she eats her ice cream. It always makes me laugh. She can be very funny. Okay, or I like how he, you know, um, picks up his cutlery, whatever. Pick something really silly, something that makes you laugh, so you change the energy inside of you. You get away from this serious, depressing, oh, I'm so down about this relationship. And you just lift the energy up a little bit. That can really change the perspective quite easily. And it's a joyful exercise. And it all depends on the circumstances. Like, do you have mutual respect for one another? And you might even, ask yourself, could I do this exercise with my partner? And that could also be quite revealing if you think you can or if you think that you can't. So, no matter how estranged the relationship is, if it is to the point where you like not communicating a lot, we're kind of avoiding each other because you just don't know what to say to each other, you could do this exercise with an impartial friend or with a coach or with a mediator, and whoever you invite to help you sitting with your partner and starting to communicate by doing this exercise, for example, having like an impartial friend or a relationship coach or a mediator in that environment with you and your partner can help calm the tension and provide reassurance because both parties would be quite nervous to do this, and in the presence of an impartial friend or a relationship coach or a mediator, you know that those people who are there to help you, they're not going to take sides. They're not going to say, "Oh, I like this person, but I don't like this person," and they're not there to judge you. Now, for example, if you cannot appreciate anything about the other person, well, this is obviously difficult, but then try and think about something that you enjoyed in the past. Do you enjoy having a drink together and playing cards? Have you done this before? Like, a couple of years ago, and you had a good time. Why not ask the other person if they want to sit with you and maybe, you play a game that you enjoy, a board game, a card game, just something to break the ice and create an experience that is relaxing. So it brings the tension down and it also gives you a good opportunity to observe something you like about the other person. This is really lovely to do because you have to start somewhere, okay? If you want to create what you call normal, my understanding of normal is that you can live without tension. And that's a really, really good start. And then there are so many other exercises you could do if you really wanted to go deeply into it with a relationship coach. I, for example, work with an exercise where we call it's a particular technique where people have to slow down how they speak, and then they are only allowed to utter a certain number of words to make the conversation really, really relaxing and slow. And it is amazing what people come out with. Like you actually see people really relax, be in the present moment. And for the first time, they can actually really, really say what is on their mind because they're so present. There's no anxiety. And then the other person can respond in the same slow motion, talking very, very slowly, and everyone feels listened to. It's amazing how much information you can actually get out in that situation and the understanding that is building between two people. And the other thing that I particularly like to do is tapping, chakra tapping, because in our chakras, we hold a lot of the emotions that we accumulated as children. Chakras are simply energy centers in the body. And tapping is literally like tapping on acupuncture points and just calming down the anxiety and talking through issues works like a charm. So there are many things that can be done to, inverted commas, make a relationship normal again. Over to you, RJ.
So beautiful. There's many elements of that relationship you have covered. There's you have put through the inner details and also some questions and some tools in a nutshell. So and also it is also inspecting what is normal for an individual. I
Mm-hmm.
think that normal will be different for each person as depend on their perspectives or their
Yep.
values or what is really normal depend on what they like or what they have
Mm-hmm.
experienced or what they are aware in their life or what they have experienced in their relationship as well. So understanding one thing is what is normal and
Mm-hmm.
what is really not normal for that one person. and whether that is matching to the other person. That's again, as you mentioned in the exercises, it's also connecting with the one person's, and then also looking at the other person from outside, what you can appreciate and what they like. So I think that makes it more connective space and understanding each other well, and also putting into some kind of also putting into other person's shoes as well. So I think it's a collective consciousness that we can see it here. Same time that you mentioned the other exercise at the end is working it slowly, right? Talking it slowly or taking that time or talking minimum. So I think that keeps you with more reflection, and also which can bring out more perspective rather than jumping into the friction or getting into that resistance and the reactions while we having bringing back into the normal, or getting back to the normal, or identifying what is normal or what is abnormal as well. So it's all connected well in that space. So I think it's a beautiful way to understand, and I believe it is all has to start with one place, and that is the place for each individual. Are you ready to work on your relationship, or are you ready to make a difference in the relationship, or are you ready to transform or do the transition? So probably you need to look into a different outlook on a relationship, so that we can come into that relationship counseling or relationship coaching or into the mediation. I think the basic step is the person has to step up themselves and identify, okay, whatever I'm doing is not working, and I need to have the readiness to change or to think differently or to seek help. So I think that's the starting point for everyone, I believe. And I think that's why we are giving this opportunity for people to come on board with the more identification or identifying their problem, so that we can also help other people. So that's what we are here for. And that's what we are trying to bring a community hub, and so that we can help other people who is having this relationship issues, and so they want to work on their relationship issue and maybe get back to their normal.
Yep, beautiful. Well said.
Thank you.
Okay.